Psychology is a global profession. Like many other such professions, there is a significant variability in how psychology is defined and regulated throughout the world. The challenge for internationalists is to understand how individual countries construct and implement systems of education, training, credentialing, and regulation to conform to the local definitions of the profession and devise ethical codes that melt universal and local contexts. In addition to language spoken, the historical and political diversity in countries make comprehensive comparisons difficult. The COVID-19, which unexpectedly invaded our lives in March of 2020, affected nearly 1 billion students and learners worldwide. The majority of countries suspended the operation of schools at all levels, leaving around 65% of the total students' population in home education, switching from the traditional school to online teaching. The relevance of the problem of competency-based approach in education is associated with the orientation of society towards solving the problems of modernizing the content of higher and general secondary education to increase the level of education of students. Competence, professional and pedagogical, is an integral professional and personal characteristic of a teacher which determines his willingness and ability to perform professional and pedagogical functions by the norms and standards currently adopted in society. Competence in possession by a person of relevant competence, including his attitude to it and the subject of activity. A competence-based approach is an approach in education for which the priority goal of the educational process is the formation of competencies. Competence, from the Latin competentia, it is a range of issues in which a person is knowledgeable, has knowledge and experience. It includes a set of interconnected personality traits, knowledge, skills, and methods of activity, defined concerning a certain range of objects and processes that necessarily for high-quality, productive activities concerning them. Psychological approaches vary depending on the theoretical models underpinning them. Broadly, psychological interventions can be classified into behavioral, cognitive, psychodynamic, humanistic, systemic, motivational, diseased, and social and environmental. The emphasis of each therapy is different, depending on the theoretical underpinning of the approach. Responsibilities of a teacher psychologist is professional activities. The first duty is to sympathize with students. The second duty of the teacher psychologist is to follow the example. He should not wait for a reward for his work, should not accept any pay or gratitude. The teacher psychologist should never deny the student advice and should not allow him to work at any level until he is ready for this. By discouraging students from the evil paths, the teacher psychologist should act rather as an hint than directly and with sympathy rather than gross reproaches. A teacher psychologist who teaches a certain science should not neglect other sciences. The educational psychologist is not primarily a source of information, but a living example of the effectiveness of learning. the commandments of a modern psychologist. Accept all that is in the student as natural, consistent with his nature. Accompany his positive self-realization by accepting all manifestations, both positive and negative. Try not to teach anything directly. Learn by yourself. Seek the truth with them. Sincerely admire all the beauty that you see around. The teacher psychologist will become a professional if he has a complex of abilities and competencies, taking responsibility for the results of his work. The diagnosis and intervention activities of school psychologists need to be based on well-developed reflective, inquiring, problem-solving and decision-making skills. The goal of teaching problem-solving skills within a generic curriculum has been proposed by educators in school psychology. Responsibilities for diagnosis and intervention demand much more than cookbook approaches to making decisions. Knowledge of the discipline of psychology, including its clinical literature, together with professional experience, often enable school psychologists to select interventions best suited to individual needs. In addition, flexibility in thinking is needed to enable professionals to consider alternative approaches to traditional practices. Disagreements as to the appropriateness of approaches to providing psychological service are resolved through practitioners' capacities for making decisions. When preparing school psychologists, educators and supervisors need to model professional decision-making skills in practice and field-based coursework. Such skills are acquired, in part, from professional experience, applying psychological knowledge, using assessment strategies, and developing a disciplined approach to the reflecting upon human behavior and one's own professional experiences. More specifically, problem-solving and analytical skills need to be taught when examining behavioral antecedents and consequences, as well as implementing individual and group interventions for students, teachers, parents, and others. As the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic remains in our lives, school psychology has to adapt across all aspects of training and practice. Indeed, assessment, intervention, consultation, and other forms of school psychological service have begun to be adapted and will likely look significantly different in the foreseeable future. In the new social reality condition, with their multidimensional impact, economic, political, environmental, social, cultural, legal, ethical, the role of school psychologists became even more prominent after the outbreak of the pandemic. School psychologists remain unsure of how best to provide psychological services in this context.